promises during his initial presidential campaign, many of which he may have forgotten by now, but I will bet that many Americans, if not most Americans, have not forgotten these promises that he made to us, including the $2,400 Social Security increases to all. But just moments ago, new details have been revealed regarding President Biden's emergency meeting with Democratic governor. The panic mode has officially set in, and this is the Dems' next step in their damage control phase ever since the CNN Trump Biden debate disaster. Now, the saddest parts about the story that I'm going to tell you guys later on, that, it kind of revolves around a lot of the vulnerable Americans that have suffered under Gail Ennis's tenure as the Inspector General of the Social Security Administration. Now, elderly and disabled individuals like Gail Deckman faced massive fines for receiving improper Social Security payments, often without proper due process, which left them financially devastated and hopeless. Now, this is a stark contrast to what Joe Biden promised that he would do for Americans. He said that Social Security recipients would be protected. Now, I should warn you guys that they're already trying to point the finger at Trump, Trump, Trump. It's always Donald Trump's fault. But I want to warn you guys to try to ignore the lies being told. Whistleblowers within the office, such as Jocelyn Funny. Jocelyn Funny is a whistleblower inside of the Social Security Administration that actually faced retaliation and was marginalized for just trying to bring these injustices to light, leading to a toxic work environment. Now, this sounds eerily familiar with the likes of Fani Willis. You guys remember the whistleblower in Fulton County DA Fani Willis's office by the name of Amanda Timpson, right? She blew the whistle on what she believed to be the federal grant funds that were being improperly spent. Fani Willis's office allegedly fired the whistleblower shortly thereafter. Now, despite all of these ongoing issues and the suffering of those affected, Ennis's leadership remained unaccountable for years, exacerbating the pain and the frustration of those who depend on SSA's support. But first, allow me to share the details from the governor himself, revealing what they discussed about with President Joe Biden in this emergency meeting. By the way, if you guys haven't already, take a second, hit the like button for the video, subscribe to the channel, and take a listen to this here.
Events after 8 p.m. We're learning new details about what President Biden said to Democratic governors at last night's critical meeting at the White House. Sources now tell CNN the president said he needs more sleep and he plans to stop scheduling events after 8 p.m. Here now is Hawaii Governor Josh Green, a Democrat. He attended that meeting remotely. Governor, thank you for coming back on the show. We had you on just before the meeting. Now you're giving us the assessment after the meeting. So your questioning to President Biden is when he reportedly admitted to seeing a doctor in the days following the debate. Were you satisfied with his answer? And should the White House release more detailed information about his health?
Sure. Thank you for having me, and happy 4th of July. Look, I'm a physician, and so it was my place amongst the other governors, the Democratic governors, to ask the president just humbly, how are you, Mr. President? Are you okay? Thursday, the debate day, you weren't who we are accustomed to seeing. The president reassured us. He did share with me, as I've shared, that he was exhausted, and he had done quite a lot of travel in the 2 weeks before, and he didn't make any excuses about it. Exhaustion is very real for governors and for presidents, I can tell you. He gets up probably in the extreme wee hours of the morning to help our country, as do we all for our states. So it's not uncommon to have fatigue. That was what he shared, and I think that that is pretty normal for an elderly gentleman who's 81, and it's pretty normal even for his opponent. So it was a pretty satisfying description of where he is. But I will tell you this, I'm not his physician. We were very satisfied to hear the president perked up, and he looked great just now addressing people about 4th of July.
Did anyone in the meeting ask to speak to his physician or, to get more information about his health or anything like that?
I know, because that would be completely inappropriate. We don't, as Americans, ask for access to other people's personal medical records.
Right, but this is the
not
president of the United States. Yeah.
Oh, of course. But, a bunch of governors are not going to ask to see your medical records. And so that's just not the case. And he did get a checkup. People are going to judge the president. They're going to judge the former president. I can say some blunt things with you if you'd like, which is to say,
Say it.
look, of course, he's going to have some moments. He's 81, but this is a 81-year-old who may drift periodically. He races ahead of his words sometimes because that's always been Joe. And he's got a very good-hearted nature underneath a brain that's 81 years old, as opposed to his opponent, who has a malignant personality underneath his brain. He has a personality that even attacks this president here on 4th of July. And people can judge that. This is a time where we're going to have to judge two gentlemen who are both around age 80 and see who's going to care more for the people of America. That's really what this comes down to. But we were glad to see the president yesterday.
Let me ask you, because the New York Times has some new reporting about a question, is part of your question during the meeting. Let's see, it says, after Governor Josh Green of Hawaii, a physician, asked Mr. Biden a question about the status of his health, Mr. Biden replied that his health was fine. It's just my brain, he added, according to 3 people familiar with what took place, a remark that some in the room took as a joke, but at least one governor did not and was puzzled by. Jen O'Malley Dillon, Mr. Biden's campaign chair, who attended the meeting, said in a statement that he had said, all kidding aside, a recollection confirmed by another person briefed on the meeting. So she also said he was clearly making a joke. How did you take it? What was the vibe in the room when he said it's just my brain? Just give us some color of what was going on. Bring us inside that room.
Sure. To all America, people have to be able to take a joke. This is absolutely a self-deprecating joke, which is very common for the president to make. You know, the difference is Joe Biden makes a self-deprecating joke because he's comfortable about that, as opposed to what we would hear from the former president, who would probably be saying things like, Trump's brain is great. Trump can pass any test. Trump's brain passed the MRI scan in the third person. I mean, Biden was just kidding with us. And frankly, and I'm saying this as a physician, it is a significant ability to cognitively still be able to make a self-deprecating joke. So if anything, people do need to lighten up. Now, I know that the whole country is panicked, especially Democrats. At the end of the day, if President Biden decides not to run, it'll be his choice and Jill's choice. But, you know, for me, I got to witness the president very up close because we had this disaster on Maui 331 days ago. And he was right there by our side. He walked Front Street. He greeted 300 Hawaii residents, hugged every one of them. You know, the entire country, including the Republican governors, called me to offer support. And there was one individual in America who went off, and that was Donald Trump. And he sent some kind of hateful message to me and the state as we were recovering from a fire that took 102 loved ones. So you've got President Biden, who came and embraced us, and within 6 hours helped us heal with a major disaster declaration. And then you've got the one individual amongst the whole planet who attacked us. And so, look, my heart is with Joe. And if he tells us he's not up to running, then it's his choice. But we have a very clear choice in America, which is a really good-hearted human being with a great vice president. Or we've got someone who is somewhat awful, frankly. And so I hope that people look beyond the surface, because Joe's going to slip up periodically in the next couple weeks or months. But the actual humans underneath the surface are very different. And I would ask Republicans and independents and Democrats to look beneath the surface, because that's what's necessary to guide this country on every decision.
Well, guys, we got a lot to unpack here. Well, number one, I think it's pretty clear that Joe Biden is not going to let Joe Biden back out of this race, out of this election campaign anytime soon. Joe Biden's got way too many Vanity Fair, Vogue magazine covers to be on in the front of. She's got way too many $5,000 dresses to purchase in her years to come. So I don't think that Dr. B, also known as Jill Biden, the monster, is going to let Joe Biden back out of this election. And Hunter Biden still, he's also behind Joe Biden in remaining in this election to basically keep the family business thriving. And you all know what the family business is, so we can't let that die down. But also, this governor, Josh Green of Honolulu, brought up the fact that basically Donald Trump like crapped on the people of Honolulu of Maui. You guys remember the Maui fires, right? Do you guys remember an instance where Donald Trump was like talking trash about the Maui residents that were impacted by the wildfires in Hawaii? In was it Lahina, Hawaii? Anyway, I don't remember that. If I'm off, please correct me, guys. Fuzzy balls, appreciate the big five. We shouldn't forget the 2020 Democratic Party. Excuse me. We shouldn't forget the 2020 Democratic primary debates when Tulsi Gabbard demolished Kamala Harris. I suspect Trump would mop the floor with her too. That'd be a good debate to watch. Definitely entertaining at a minimum. But you know, so again, this is the governor of Honolulu, the governor of Hawaii, sounding off on the health of the president. He's admitted that the president is a little bit loofy. He mentioned that Biden does tend to race ahead of his words. He's got an 81-year-old brain. It's pretty clear about that. But he also took some stabs. He took some jabs at Donald Trump to indicate that Donald Trump, unlike Biden, where Biden tends to joke about his condition, he'll make fun of himself. Josh Green here indicated that Donald Trump would not have done that. Donald Trump would have said, you can pass any mental acuity test, any mental cognitive ability test, yada, yada, yada. But the thing is why would Donald Trump need to poke fun of himself? And this is a question for you guys. Why would Donald Trump need to poke fun of himself the way Biden pokes fun of himself if he doesn't have the mental cognitive problems that Biden has? So that's my question. I don't really see that issue nearly as prevalent with Trump as I do with Biden. Anyway, Trump's not perfect by any means, but I'm just saying the cognitive worries are really with Biden, less so with Trump, in my opinion. Let me know what y'all think on that. But apparently, something needs to happen. Democratic voters are replacing Biden. It looks like in the days since President Joe Biden's widely criticized debate performance against former President Donald Trump, Democrats across the country have begun questioning whether Mr. Biden is the best candidate for the party. Most voters think Democrats have a better chance of keeping the White House if Biden is not the nominee. Now, this came from a CNN poll, guys. So I think we could probably trust that one because it's CNN and it's actually, calling out the true position of the Democratic Party. The BBC actually spoke to Democratic voters who reflected that concern, but who also worried about the logistics of switching candidates this far into the campaign. But as the party confronts this thorny question, we asked voters what they want to see Democrats do next and who they think could replace Mr. Biden. Familiar names include Vice President Kamala Harris, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, California Governor Gavin Newsom, and also known as Gavin Newscum, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. So those look like the most likely Joe Biden replacement candidates. So let me know what y'all think about those candidates down in the comments. Fuzzy Balls, appreciate the big five. The woke wing of the Democratic Party won't allow Kamala to be passed over. They are painted into a corner. Clock's running out. It's not looking good for the Dems right now. But going back to the Social Security situation here, this story of Gail Ennis and her controversial tenure as the Inspector General of the Social Security Administration, the SSA, is pretty complex. It's involving stonewalling some federal investigators, retaliation against some whistleblowers, and even some improper fines against vulnerable Americans. And you might be one of them. By the way, if you haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video. Really appreciate you guys. So Gail Ennis, who was nominated by former President Donald Trump in 2018 and took office a year later, resigned from her role as the IG of the SSA last Friday, facing years of criticism. Now, the Office of Inspector General, which NS led, is responsible for overseeing the issues reporting. She's responsible for overseeing and issuing reports on the Social Security Administration's operations, including the distribution of monthly checks of 69 million retired Americans and 15 million people with disabilities. Now, when Ennis took over, she inherited a fairly problematic program from her predecessor that imposed massive fines on Americans who had received improper Social Security benefits. Now, you may know someone, or you may actually be someone who received one of these Social Security overpayment letters. This has a lot to do with what we're talking about here. Now, these fines, sometimes reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars, targeted over 100 individuals without following proper procedures. I honestly think that number is way more than 100, very plainly. I think that number is way too underestimated. But this is pretty devastating for a lot of people's financial situations. Now, for example, one elderly woman, she was mistakenly, by the name of Gail Deckman, she was mistakenly continued to receive payments after her husband's death, which she thought were estate payments. She told the newspaper that, quote, "I'm going to be dead by the time I can afford to retire. They're taking away my Social Security. They're charging me so much. Do they think I can afford a lawyer to fight this?" End quote. Now, does this sound like Biden is holding true to his promise? I thought he was supposed to be protecting Social Security recipients. This sounds like it's big government attacking the little guy who can't even afford to fight back. Now, Ennis's direct involvement in the increase of these fines is very unclear, but her tenure saw significant problems beyond this issue. The investigations into these fines drew a lot of attention of Congress and, of course, the Justice Department, the Inspector General, as well as a number of other entities. Now, in March 2024, this year, Michael Horowitz, the DOJ Inspector General, he accused Ennis of obstructing this investigation by instructing her staff not to cooperate and withhold documents. Not to cooperate and withhold documents. Where have I heard that one from? I'm just seeing this pattern of, anyway, 2022, a report by the Post revealed a culture of retaliation and toxicity within Ennis's office. Now, the whistleblowers who reported the improper fines, they face retaliation. Jocelyn Fooney, she's a longtime attorney at the SSA Office of Investigations, told the newspaper that they pretend I don't exist, hoping that eventually I will exhaust my emotional and financial resources and walk away. Now, all these issues came to light. Ennis faced increasing scrutiny and criticism, particularly from the Senate Finance Committee, which is led by Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon. And the committee ultimately ended up launching this investigation into her management of the Social Security Administration, the OIG, in late 2022 and in 2023, ultimately demanding answers from Ennis on various allegations, including misuse of federal funds, aka Fannie Willis, and retaliation against whistleblowers. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Senator Wyden, who initially supported Ennis's nomination, later called for her resignation, stating that her promises of a collaborative and transparent office culture were unfulfilled. Now, despite these calls, President Joe Biden did not immediately act on the recommendation for her resignation. Now, on Friday, Ennis's spokesperson denied that President Joe Biden had influenced her decision to resign. In her resignation letter, Ennis described the agency as vibrant, thanked her colleagues without providing a specific reason for her departure. But Gail Ennis's tenure as the Inspector General of the SSA, it's kind of a cautionary tale of the impact of the leadership that we have on very vulnerable populations, especially folks on fixed income like Social Security, SSI, and SSDI, the importance of accountability, and of course, the transparency in public office, which, I mean, look at all of the examples we've witnesses with Donald Trump's cases. Fannie Willis, Letitia James, Special Counsel Jack Smith, DA Alvin Bragg, all these corrupt judges. It's like the list goes on and on and on. And these folks are seemingly getting away with murder here. But I think all this comes to a head here, guys. I think it all comes to a head. But if you have not already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. I really do appreciate you guys. You guys are absolutely amazing. Happy Friday. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And try to stay out of this heat. I just checked the weather, and in Vegas today, it is 112 degrees on the lowest day of the week. The highest day of the week is 118 degrees. What's the weather like in your area? Let me know, guys. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you on the next one.